This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. The National UFO Reporting Center, which tracks calls and messages from people around the United States and Canada, reported that it received 5,971 sightings in 2019, a jump from 3,395 in 2018. California led the country this year with the most number of UFO sightings, 485 in total, an increase of 182 sightings from 2018. Florida came in second with 385 sightings in 2019. A daytime UFO sighting was reported in Los Angeles to MUFON earlier this month. 3 orbs were followed by a group of 5 orbs that caught up with the first 3 orbs and then made a pentagon shape. The orbs reportedly held their shape for several minutes. The witness stated, "I've observed many satellites passing over, and these orbs have the appearance but not the speed. It took about 12 minutes for them to go 25 degrees to about 90 degrees, really slow." A former United States Air Force intelligence expert believes that the mysterious swarm of drones spotted in recent weeks over Colorado may not be drones at all, but new state-of-the-art military technology. Mike Tuber, U.S. Air Force intelligence, explains to the Daily Star.
I've seen several videos now that I've kind of gotten into this. I'm pretty much a debunker or what have you, but I never jumped on the UFO bandwagon or whatever. But as I'm watching some of these videos, I'm seeing some objects that look a lot like what the Tic Tac would be. There's one where an aircraft is flying and one just zooms by at a ridiculous speed. And then, of course, the ones going over the Colorado area. And the thing about the Air Force is that we mean, just like anything that they do, it takes like 15 to 20 years before some of the stuff leaks out at this level.
Local law enforcement has been unable to identify the drones, and even the Federal Aviation Administration is at a loss to explain them. The Foothills Conservancy of Northern Carolina says it's closed on 17 acres in Burke County in December, with the help of money from a private donor. Multiple Bigfoot sightings have been reported in the area over recent years, according to Bigfoot researchers. Burke County is also home to the Brown Mountain Lights, a series of ghost lights reported near Brown Mountains in North Carolina. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
This is Malorcas 45, fan of the Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed drift.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, and I am your host, Joe Root. Welcome. If this is your first time listening to the show, we talk about all things strange, fringe, paranormal, scientific, anything into the void. And we don't pretend to have all the answers here, but we definitely look for them on this broadcast. So thank you for joining us tonight on January the 22nd, Wednesday night, into the 23rd. Tonight, Pagan Priestess, Mystic, and Mayan Astrologer Naviae Allora joins us. And this is going to be a pretty interesting conversation. I already got to talk to her a little bit, and she found the show through one of our guests, Jason Quitt, and has been a fan of the show ever since. And it's funny, the kind of really awesome synchronistic connections that we make on this broadcast as we go on to this journey into the void. I want to thank our sponsors tonight at getthetea.com. Make sure you guys stay cleansed. I know a lot of you guys got your New Year's resolutions out, and there's nothing better to get that done than getting yourself cleansed first. And I know it is a pain, right? Because you got all this junk inside you, but I can tell you it's non-GMO, and this stuff is the best stuff to do it at getthetea.com. And it's really, after you've done it the first time and you just keep drinking it, it really does help you get the weight off faster. At least it does me, you know. And I don't know if I can say that legally or whatever, but I can tell you that it helped me. How about that? Also at ancientlifeoil.com, the best CBD oil on the planet. Everybody knows that too, right? If you go to these sponsors, make sure you say the Fringe FM sent you. We'd really appreciate it. And metaphorical archaeology. If you've had a paranormal experience that's caused you any trauma or any type of post-traumatic stress, you can get a free session with Barbara Charlton at Metaphorical Archaeology through us. All you got to do is say we sent you there, or even I think all you got to do is say it's through a paranormal experience, but just make sure that you say Joe or the Fringe FM sent you, something like that. Now, that number, let me give you guys that number and make sure you write it down too. It's 214-995-3754. Also want to give a shout out to, I haven't done this yet, to our affiliates, Optics Planet and Soothe. I mean, night vision and massages. Soothe is really cool. You guys should check that out, right? If you go to Soothe, get the Soothe app and then download it. You can get a massage or a masseuse come straight to your house. It's got recommendations. Just check it out. It's really cool. Really cool. And our UFO team, head over to ufoseekers.com. These folks are backed and supported by the Fringe FM because of their journalistic and integral approach to the UFO field. And so that's why we keep them around. We always check in with them from time to time. But I can tell you, Tim Doyle and Tracy are two of the busiest people I know that do this kind of work. And we'll try to get him back on to talk to you. He did try to do a radio show. He said he might come back and try to do it again, but work just got overwhelming for him. But you can give him a follow at UFO Seekers on Twitter. Watch their new season of investigations at youtube.com/UFO Seekers. We all in this field need as much help as we can get. It doesn't matter what subject we're talking about here on YouTube, because they are not promoting us in the search engines. They're not, folks. I mean, they're what they're doing is, like, if you've got a YouTube channel and let's say you've done everything to rank it the right way, you even get certified in your keyword phrase, just like Tim did. It doesn't matter. What they're doing is they're preferencing the larger news companies, people that are, it's all about money. You guys know that. It is not for the little guy anymore. So the only way that we're going to stay up in the ranks in YouTube from here on out is to make sure that we as a community keep promoting each other over there, okay? So let's get that done too. All right, let's bring on our guest. Naviae Allora is a hereditary medium. She has always been close to the other side, and her first memories are of interactions with the spirit world at age 4. She had 2 near-death experiences, complete with out-of-body experiences. And now this opened her to the spirit world even further and deeply shaped her view of reality. After these near-death experiences, she began having prophetic, lucid dreams and communicating with the dead. Navier is currently writing and co-illustrating a children's book that is based on her surreal childhood in order to support her or to support other mystical children. At age 18, she was gifted her first tarot deck, and it was love at first sight, like a lot of us, right? And Navier has now been reading tarot for over 28 years and has a worldwide clientele that she reads for via phone and video sessions. She is a certified Akashic record consultant, trained in the tradition of Edgar Cayce's ARE, and then this gives her access and insights into past and parallel lives, karmic patterns, soulmates, soul families, and soul trauma guides. Let's see, soul trauma guides and benevolent ancestors and Navier's allies on the other side. She's a world traveler, an eclectic witch, and is a practicing pagan priestess. Her passion is to co-create magical experiences and connect into the sacred and the divine through ritual and liminality. She has priestess rituals and rites of passage all over the country for 20 years. Now, her latest work, and we're going to discuss this, is a virtual foundation witchcraft course entitled The Year of the Witch, and it is an experimental course encompassing the 13 moon cycles and the 8 Sabbaths, or high holy days of the witch year. Now, this course is available to anyone who has the internet and she wants to create a safe place for magical people to feel held and supported as they explore and expand. Give folks of any gender or orientation an opportunity to have an experienced witch as a mentor and guide is the impetus for this course. Now, the website is awanderingwitch.com. And you know what? It's our first, I believe this is our first Hawaii guest too. So I don't have to feel guilty. Welcome to Lighting the Void, Navier.
Aloha.
Yeah, so I don't have to feel guilty. Like when I have people on from England, man, they wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 in the morning. People on the East Coast I always feel guilty about, but I'm pretty comfortable with you. It's like 7 o'clock where you're at right now, and I'm jealous.
It's just getting dark here, and we don't have daylight savings time, and our time doesn't really vary that much. So we have our hours of daylight. I think it's only an hour and a half throughout the year. So it doesn't ever have those super long summer nights like we grew up with on the mainland. We don't have that here. It's like 5:30 and then 7-ish sunset year round.
Who doesn't want to go to Hawaii though? I mean, I can tell the energy there is already good, you know. What are those, birds or frogs in the background?
It's coqui frogs. They were little stowaways from a boat from Puerto Rico, and they've just multiplied, and they're everywhere. They're about the size of a quarter, probably.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, listen, it's good to have you on here. I want to talk to you about some of this stuff. First off, before we get into your story and your experiences, I don't think I've ever talked to a Mayan astrologer. That's pretty epic. Right? Now, how did you come into that?
I would say that Mayan astrology called to me. I had a lot of people start to come into my awareness asking me about what my Mayan astrology was, and I really didn't know anything about it. And some folks had charts and books, and they would, decipher mine. And when I would read about it, I realized, wow, this is so deep. This is on a whole other level from Western astrology. And I just started to like dabble with it a bit. And then the more that I traveled and met people, the more it came into my awareness. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go down south to like the Mayan lands and find a teacher. And I prepared to do that. I was selling all my things and sold my car and was ready to go. I thought maybe Costa Rica, and then nothing was flowing. It was just like a brick wall. And I thought, why did Spirit lead me to discover this and guide me to seek out teachings? And now I'm just stuck. I was stuck in California with no car and, all these dreams of going somewhere with no way to get there. It was just like a dead end. And then I met this woman at a peace rally, and she said, where would you go if you can go anywhere in the world? And I said, without hesitating, Hawaii. And she said, you just need to go to Hawaii. And I went online and saw that there was some land on the Big Island where I live, that where I live now. And it was, free land, free camping, come, everyone's welcome kind of thing. Wow. So I messaged this guy. Yeah. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to come to the Big Island. And he said, well, I can, fly into Hilo, which is the biggest town here. And he said, I'll pick you up from the airport and you can come and stay on my land. And 4 days later, I was there. It just all, there I was. And I didn't even know that there was an active volcano here. That's how uninformed I was about Hawaii. It was just like suddenly the flow took over, and he picked me up from the airport, and he said, "We live on the slopes of the volcano here." And I said, "There's an active volcano here?" And he said, "Yeah, there's 5 volcanoes here, and there's 3 active, and we live on the slopes of the most active one." And he kind of laughed at me like, "Who is this person just jumping into the, void like this?" And I felt like I was on psychedelics. As soon as I got off the plane, the energy of this place is just trippy. And he could tell that I was really kind of disoriented, and he took good care of me. I'm trusting a stranger. I'm in his truck. I'm just trusting the fate. And
taking a leap of faith, huh? Following spirit.
Totally.
Right? Yeah, I get that.
And he drove me up to this land, and the first person I met was this super gorgeous older woman, maybe in her 50s, and she's got this strong accent. I can't place it. And she says, "Aloha." And I said, "Aloha." And she said, "What is your Mayan astrology?" And my mouth just dropped open, and I said, "Red overtone moon, but I don't know what that means really." And she said, "Okay, well, I've been calling for you. And now you're going to be here, and we can learn together. We can study, and I'll teach you."
And that's something.
And that's how I met my Mayan astrology teacher. And I lived in this sort of tarp structure for about 6 months. And every day she would do this gong meditation with me. And she would say, "Today is a white magnetic wizard day. And this is the energy of the day. And we're going to see my friend Janelle. She is a white wizard." And we'd go and visit Janelle. And I'd be like, "Okay, I can totally feel this white wizard energy." And after a few months of this sort of thing and meditating on the different tribes, because it's a different system than you've ever encountered before, there's no reference for it. She said, "I'm going to give you a chart and go to the beach and make friends." So I would just lay out a blanket and sit on the black sand beach, and people would say, "What are you doing?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm looking at Mayan astrology. Do you know what your sign is? I can decode you." And I would make all these friends, and I probably decoded hundreds of people doing that. It was so much fun, but that's how I got my chops doing Mayan astrology.
That is so cool. What is your sign in, just curious, of Western astrology?
I am a Cancer sun, but it's my only water sign.
Oh, but in your whole chart, the Cancer sun?
Cancer sun and Cancer south node.
Oh, wow. Okay. Deep, huh?
I pay a lot of attention to the nodes. I think they're an evolutionary key for us. So that's my only water, but I feel like it's enough. I'm so empathic and watery, and I can't even imagine having more than just my sun sign, honestly. But then I have a triple, I have a double grand fire trine. And
that's good. That's really good.
I have Sag moon, which I love. And I know Patrick also has Sag moon, I think, or something. Yeah. And I connect with other Sag moons especially. And I have a Capricorn rising, which I feel grounds me, but that's my only earth.
Really? That's interesting. Wow. Yeah. That's interesting, because I've just really been diving deep into astrology here lately, and tarot, and looking at all the energies. As much as I talk about it, seriously, I have really been looking at everything, all the energies, and found out, validated this is so real. It's so real now. I'm not saying it's super accurate and about everything, but the energies, the stories that play out, they're real. There's no doubt about it. And being an Aries sun and Cancer moon and Libra rising, I finally realized, after a full report, what all this, you start realizing everything that you've been through is for a certain reason. I mean, you can see it. It's a clear picture.
You're a triple cardinal.
Yeah. I have a grand trine in mind too. I think it's, I don't know what it is yet, but I know it's there because I was reading about it. I think it's a fire grand trine as well. But so you took a leap of faith, ended up in Hawaii, and now look at you. See, I love that. I think everybody should do that at least once in their life.
I highly recommend it. I came to Hawaii in 2000, I guess it was 2001, and left within a year. I didn't live here all this time. I went back to the mainland and only moved here in 2015 in the summer. But I always wanted to come back here.
You know what? Another synchronistic thing too. We were talking about this. I called out because we're making the Void Walkers like board. I'm making a big collage of everybody in all 50 states. And I said, we don't have Hawaii and Alaska. And I think you messaged or said something. I don't know if he was messaged or commented. You were like, hey, I'm in Hawaii and I just ordered my shirt. Right. And now we're talking on the show, that's pretty interesting. And you found the show through Jason Quitt, right?
I did. I have a client that is just starting a podcast on Spotify, and she said you can download the app and find me on Spotify. So that's why I downloaded Spotify and just was, browsing around looking for occult and consciousness ideas, and then was like, oh, I'm going to Google Jason Quitt or search for Jason Quitt. And I found him on your show. Mm-hmm. And that's how I found Lighting the Void and have been listening ever since, maybe 3 or 4 months now.
Wow. Well, thank you for listening and loving the show. And I'm glad that we have you here too now, because I want to get into your story. When you said you were 4 years old, you started having experiences. Tell me about, if it's okay. You don't have to talk about anything you're not comfortable with talking about. First off, I'll let you know that. You can just say, I'm not comfortable with talking about that. But I'm curious about your near-death experiences when you were young.
Okay. So I grew up in New England, and I'm an only child. And when I was around 3 or so, my parents dug an in-ground pool. And I didn't know how to swim, but they would put like a little life jacket on me. Mm-hmm. And the first summer that we had the pool, I was really dependent on the life jacket and wasn't allowed to go in without it. And I was spending the day swimming, and my mom was in the pool also. And I got out of the pool to use the restroom, and in my glee, just sort of ran and jumped back into the pool without putting the life vest on again. Oh. So I just, took off running and jumped into the middle of the pool and then promptly started to drown.
Man,
and
you're a water lover though. So I could see that happening,
I love water so much. I love looking at it. I love being around it. I mean, I'm surrounded by it. And I've even taken a lot of big risks to face my fear that this almost drowning experience gave me. I'm a certified scuba diver, but I'm still terrified of being in deep water.
So just out of curiosity, before we get into what you saw and your experience, psychologically, when you get in deep water, do you have a little struggle with it?
Oh man, big time. I went to Honduras and took my open water scuba certification there. And I never thought I was going to not be able to do it, but I needed an instructor to be by my side the whole time, because once we were more than, 3 or 4 feet above my head, I started to really get terrified, like I was going to be swallowed up by the water, and to trust the regulator that it's going to breathe for you. It's scary. It was just too much. Yeah. And I'm afraid of heights also, but I'm doing aerial acrobatics, even though I don't like to be high up. So I'm
facing your fears.
I don't let it stop me, but they're there.
Now tell me this. I know I will get to your near-death experience. Tell me this. Every time you face your fear like that, something good happens, doesn't it? A breakthrough happens to you, doesn't it? That's some big fears. Heights and water. That's like a really big thing to face, and you're just going straight at it.
I never thought that fear of heights would transfer to a fear of depths, but it does. It's just reversed. So I had the fear of heights / depths, and then the water.
Yeah. One of the good reminds me of your story, reminds me of Will Smith's story. He's the same way with water and height. and I watch his YouTube channel because I don't know why I'm a big fan of Will Smith, and he talked about that when this other YouTube channel challenged him to bungee jump out of a helicopter, and he did it, and he was so afraid of heights, man.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and he's like, he said on the other side of sheer terror is everything that's great about life. Everything that we don't realize is there. Passion, love, freedom, everything you want to experience in life a lot of times is right on the other side of that fear barrier. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But we don't want to go see. I have a fear of small spaces, but I don't know how I'm going to have a life experience getting into a small and maybe underwater scuba diving. Like you know those guys that do that stuff, that's so dangerous. And they go in the tunnels and even and underwater scuba dive, and you can't see in there. And sometimes if you don't follow your partner right, or you don't follow your line, you can get lost, and somebody can just kick up dirt in there, and then you don't know where you're at, and you're deep underwater. That stuff freaks me out. So I know I got to do that at some point in my life, because scuba diving is fun to me, but I've never done it in the ocean. I've done it in lakes and stuff. All right, so tell me about what happened after when you drowned. Did you see anything? Do you remember anything you saw?
I do remember a lot of it. I remember initially jumping in and then immediately started flailing, and then it was like, uh-oh, what have I done? I'm sinking and I can't swim. And the worst part of it, honestly, was when I was bobbing up out of the water for those few minutes, I would see my mom frozen and not moving towards me, just frozen. And that was almost as terrifying as being unable to swim and feel like you're drowning, is seeing my mother not coming for me.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard this voice say, this loud, clear voice say, "She's not going to save you. You have to save yourself."
Wow. Was it a male or female voice? Do you remember?
It was a female voice.
The female voice said you have to save yourself. Okay. So did you save yourself, or did you start swimming?
Yeah. I sort of doggy paddled and / flailed to the edge of the pool and jumped out, pulled myself out.
Whoa, okay. So did you die? You didn't really die though, right? Or did you?
Well, honestly, I didn't really think of it as a near-death experience until maybe a year ago. I was doing a trade with another medium, and they said, "You went to the gates of death before." And I said, "Well, sort of." And they said, "No, you did when you were 4 years old." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I never thought of it as like a typical near-death experience, but I did see myself from above. I did see my mother. I did see myself in the pool from like a bird's eye view. And it was never really talked about in my family that I had almost died or almost drowned to death. But if we get down to brass tacks, I mean, I was drowning.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that is kind of neat that you found your way out on your own too. And so that was one experience that you had, and then you had another one. How old were you when you had the next one?
It was the same year, later in that summer. And it's weird the things that you remember, because I can still recall the light coming in the bedroom window when this was happening, which is so weird. But I was jumping on my bed like little kids do, and I missed my footing and fell off the bed and came down hard onto the edge of my dresser and ripped my ear off.
Oh my God. All the way off?
Yeah. It was like hanging on by a few threads or whatever, but it had to be surgically reattached, and it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it was a near-death experience, but I left my body from the trauma, and I remember when the paramedics came, the EMT people, they had put me in a straitjacket. And I have a really clear memory of seeing myself, my hair all bloody and matted, and being in that straitjacket, seeing myself from above. My guess is, and again, it really wasn't talked about, but my guess is that I was flailing so much from
the pain,
being
probably
afraid and just being terrified of it all. And they probably thought I would do more damage to myself or what was left of my ear attachment. So they put me in a straitjacket.
My God. Well, I understand that because I've seen when my father got in a car wreck, what people tend to flip out when they go into shock, and they had to strap him down too. And it was horrible to watch. Somebody that I've seen in total control of his life for 35 years losing it, it was hard to watch, and they had to strap him down. So it's probably what was going on. Okay. So this is kind of where your journey started. And then we're going to move on from there too. And, talk a little bit more with Navier when we come back from this break. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. We're live on the Fringe FM. Tomorrow night on the program, the one and only Mary Ducina comes back. It's going to be our new moon special, so make sure you come out for that. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. Stay with us.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Roop, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
I think by now we can get the information.
I love magic, and on Lighting the Void, each and every week, you will get to hear shows about magic, mysticism, and many other subjects that stretch your mind and imagination. So when I got my mind on the magic and the magic on my mind, I listened to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM. It's magic.
May the gods look with favor upon you.
You're wondering what we're going to do to you, aren't you?
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
You can tug all day long on a carpet that's been glued to the floor. Then you hurt. There are many strong glues out there. Let's see, there's liquid nails and Gorilla Glue. You ever try to remove 3M 5200? That adhesive is strong. Then there's bathroom caulk, silicone rubber, adhesive tape, super glue, flex tape, and stickers. Graffiti. Scientists have come up with glues that stay stuck and can't be removed. Until now. Until Handyman Formula by DeBond. That's right. 95% of adhesives become unstuck when you spray Handyman Formula directly on them. Just spray, wait a few minutes, and remove. It's amazing. Most adhesives become unstuck when you use Handyman Formula. Visit DeBondCorporation.com or MCMaster.com. Call 561-575-4200. This stuff really works. Handyman Formula by DeBond, a great Christmas gift.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
All right, everyone. This is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Light in the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Yes, you are. You are listening to Lighting the Void Radio, and I'm your host, Joe Rube. We're here with Naviae Allora, Pagan Priestess, Mystic, Mayan Astrologer, and we were talking about her near-death experience as when she was young, and pretty fascinating stuff. You know for a fact, though, that you had out-of-body experiences with those two, right? And then after that, you talk about how a lot of things started happening to you in your life, spiritually, right?
Yeah. Yes. The house that I grew up in was over 100 years old and was a very active, haunted house, so to speak. I had a lot of experiences all the years that I lived there and was not believed by my family. They thought it was my imagination. Or when I started to tell them right after these extreme experiences at age 4, I started to have these dreams and experiences with spirits visiting me and really unpleasant stuff like touching me and whispering, very invasive, not friendly ghost kind of stuff.
Right.
And I would wake up terrified and tell them. And this response was like, it's your imagination or not real. And after telling them several times, I remember just feeling this indignation of, I know what I experienced. This isn't my imagination. And I heard that same voice again say to me, you know more than they do. Very kind of final. And I just stopped telling them about it after that and sort of shut down with my trust and openness with my parents, especially because when you realize that you know more than the adults in your home
right.
that are supposed to be taking care of you and protecting you and guiding you, it's like I didn't really get to be a child anymore after that. Like I had these, especially the drowning. I mean, the jumping off the bed, I don't blame my parents for or whatever, but the drowning, it took a long time to forgive my mother for not coming to save me. And I feel like I lost faith and trust in my family at that point and just started to be like a little old lady at 4.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's funny how our childhood usually sets the stage for this alchemical process that we go throughout our lives. Isn't that crazy? It's almost like, you know how people say we pick our parents. Do you believe that? Like the soul picks its journey before it comes into being. Do you believe that?
I do.
So we pick these scenarios, I think, for a reason, because I believe our soul wants to work on something, like it wants to experience something, and something deep down inside me thinks also that it's at a certain level that it has to have these type of experiences in order to grow, you know. But I could be wrong about that.
I do agree, and I feel that those experiences early on cracked me open, and I needed to be cracked open to have the journey that I'm having. And also having the DNA that I have was key. And also it wasn't until my early 30s that I finally looked at the near death / drowning experience at 4. And instead of looking at it like, my mother wasn't there for me, my mother didn't save me, she froze and didn't, get my back kind of thing, which is kind of the attitude I had deep down, even though it was hard to admit that too. I did a lot of shadow work around it and realized, hey, you know what? Kick ass. You were 4 years old and saved yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
like you're the baby on the front of the Nirvana cover. You just started swimming,
Yeah.
Like, I'm all by myself here. I got to do this. Yeah. That's cool. But it's, I had a few experiences like that when I was a child too. So I don't want to tell my story, but it is funny that a lot of the stuff you're talking about resonates with me, stuff I've never talked about before too. And so after that, you learned to talk with these spirits. So did you get into divination, or do you hear first off, I want to ask you this. When you hear spirits, do you hear them with your ears, like audibly, or do you hear them like in your mind, so to speak?
So this is really interesting. Only lately have I been able to sort of discern this. So I would say it's sort of both. And I started to truly recognize what clairaudience is versus like inner knowing, right? Because I hear things when I do readings, but I couldn't say that it's audible, like outside of my head kind of thing. But recently we had a really intense thunder and lightning rainstorm here, and I was listening to your show. I had on earbuds and I was listening to Lighting the Void, and it was this, I had it on really loud because the outside was just like storming. So I had this sort of overload in my, like close to my ears. And then I had outside this really loud raging storm. But then in between those two sounds, there was this pocket, this like, I don't even know, astral layer of information that was coming through to me in a clairaudient sort of way. And it
While
was
you
definitely
were listening to this show, that happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
My
I was
God.
just relaxing and had the earbuds in and then had the storm outside. But in between the super close-up sound and the super far away sound, I had this information. Like I was hearing knockings. I was hearing people talking to me. One voice said, I can see you. That was kind of scary. Yeah. I actually did a little banishing after that, but I realized that no, it is actually an audible thing.
Do you want to hear something synchronistic?
Yeah.
Did you hear that lightning and thunder sound where you were talking about that? Did you hear it by any chance?
No.
Okay, I'm sure the audience heard it, but I accidentally hit the sound button that, and it's the lightning and thunder button. If anybody rewinds it, yeah, it was lightning and thunder and the tower bell going off. And I was like, oh shoot, and I turned it down. And as soon as I did that, you said it was storming and lightning outside, really bad, and I was listening to your show.
Wow.
And yeah, but so there's another synchronicity there. That was a total accident. I hit the button before you said it. If anybody wants to rewind it, if you're listening to the podcast version, yeah, rewind it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Then, like the last, rewind it about 2 minutes. So, yeah, that was a weird synchro there. Anyways, okay. So
I have.
You've been having. So, are you kind of like peaking right now in your life? As far as you spiritually goes, would you say?
I don't know. I can't see the whole range of the mountain, so I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you asked me when I was 29 and I had like given all my stuff away and was on this huge spiritual journey for 7 years, just living out of a backpack and traveling around. I thought I had arrived then.
Man, you are brave. You were living in a backpack, traveling around, huh? That's brave.
I did.
But that's something I've always wanted to do, actually.
I totally recommend it. I feel like I had to, it was a slow process. I was in a long-term relationship and that ended. And then I realized I really wanted to do festivals like consciousness festivals and vend. I was really into alchemical fire circles for a while and would vend at different events just to kind of make enough money to get to the next one, and did that for a while all over the place. Really powerful work. If anyone out there is looking for big transformational communal group experience with sacred drum and dance and fire, the alchemical fire circles are like 3 years of psychotherapy in one night. I can't recommend them enough.
Now, is there ayahuasca involved or any substances involved in that? So it's pure meditation or pure shamanistic ritual, kind of, so to speak? Okay.
It's like everyone shows up around midnight in whatever garb they want to come in wearing. And we enter in sacred space. There's drums, there's dancing and a fire in the middle. It's all alchemically informed. So there's the sun in the middle as the fire, the Mercury track, the Venus track, the Mars track. It's all set up that way. And you pretty much go through this process in this alchemical container, and people have like popping experiences where they need to be supported by the community and have breakthroughs and cry and have big releases sometimes. But it's big. It's awesome. And the people that are doing it are trustworthy. The biggest vortex was one of them that I would recommend, but they're happening all over the place. And I was doing these and would just find myself growing so much from these different events and facing some really ugly things and having to come out the other side. And then when the sun would rise, one of the facilitators would climb to the highest point and they would shine a mirror down on everyone's face to like catch the sun's light.
Yeah.
And it was like we were reborn. We really did feel like we were gold, or we had been transformed. And
wow, that's so cool. You know, I've had that kind of experience myself. I wrote a article on Medium. If anybody just searches Joe Roop, and the article's titled, Should I Join a Secret Society? And I went to Nevada and found David Griffin and Leslie McQuaid, and David's a Rosicrucian, ritual magician, and Leslie's a Strega witch. And I was more like journeying, kind of like you were, but I was journeying, trying to figure things out. I didn't go down there to practice magic. I went down there to ask questions, hopped on a plane by myself, and they did this breathing ritual with me, and they started talking about this energy they call Luke's energy. And they say it comes from the sun, and it has everything to do with alchemy. And I directly remember the experience I had, and that's what got me hooked on the work, because I never felt energy like that before in my entire life, like ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys want to check out that article, it's on Medium. But yeah, that was pretty intense.
I'm gonna check it out.
All right, so yeah, you got a really cool story here. So you say you also communicate with the dead. How do you go about doing that? Do you use tools to do that, or do you see or hear dead people, or how do you do that?
I see dead people.
Right.
Sometimes it's not something I seek out, but sometimes my clients will ask me if they can contact someone, and I always say they may show up, they may not show up. I feel very surrendered to my mediumship. If it happens, it happens, and I can't make promises. Sometimes they come and sometimes they're busy doing other things. I don't know. But when it does show up, when they do come, it's like they walk in the room. It's like I see them sort of like superimposed on this reality, and I can see them clearly, like what they're wearing. I had a really cool mediumship experience a few months ago, maybe it was a month ago. A longtime client of mine, I read for her entire family, her mom, her kids, her and her husband for years. And her mom had passed away about a year ago. And she said, I'd like to see if we can connect with my mom. And I knew her. This was the first person that I actually knew in life that I was trying to contact once they had passed. And I said, okay, let's try. And she showed up. And I said, wow, she's holding this glass of lemonade with a straw, a fancy straw. And she's just like sitting there thinking, like sort of the energy of like, I'm having this amazing life O'Reilly now kind of thing. And she laughed and she said, oh, that was always her thing. It was like, I'm going to just sit back and have my glass of lemonade. And she loved having like fancy glass and straw, kind of like a frou-frou, you know, luxury drink was this like lemonade out of a fancy straw. And it was just like, she just walked in the room, and I knew it was her because I had met her many times. Sometimes people show up and they're not necessarily who people wanted to talk to. They'll say, is there anyone that wants to come and talk to me? And I'll just sort of open to who wants to show up. And sometimes people want to get in touch with loved ones and they don't show up for me.
I gotcha.
But it just is what it is. I don't use any tools. I just sort of allow it to happen.
Interesting. Okay. And I find it fascinating the way you're describing it too, because it's almost like defining how it happens is difficult, which tells me that it's kind of real. It's because when I try to define the out-of-body experience I had, it's still hard to this day, but I know that it's something that changed my life, you know?
Exactly.
And so
I had, I recently had a client that I had only seen one time contact me, maybe 4 or 5 years after our one reading. And she found me on Instagram recently, and she said, I don't know if you remember me, but we had this session. I had lived in Florida like 5 years ago, and I was like, I really don't remember this woman. And she said, you did a reading for me and it was spot on, but there was this one thing that didn't make any sense to me. She said that I kept saying there was a woman in the room that was her grandmother, and she had just passed away. And the woman I'm reading for is like, no, both my grandmothers have been dead for like a decade. And I would say, oh, okay. And then the woman's like, no, this is my granddaughter. Tell her it's my granddaughter. And she said, no, that's not possible. It makes no sense. And she said she just kind of like put it aside and thought, well, everything else made sense that you said, meh, you know, moving on. Well, her father passed away recently, and her mom dropped the bomb of, well, your dad really wasn't your dad. And I had dated someone that was my neighbor, and I was pregnant and didn't know it until I was already dating your father, and we just went with it.
Wow.
And never told anyone. But the whole neighborhood family knew. They knew that this girl was their daughter / granddaughter / niece, whatever. And it was people that she grew up knowing because her grandmother was still there. They were all friends, like family friends. So she would see them on holidays and summers and things. And she said it never made sense that she didn't look like anyone in her dad's side or mom's side, but she totally takes after these people. And when her dad passed, her mom felt safe to tell her the truth about who her real family was. And she looks like these people. And she was like, wait a minute, I saw Naviae, and she said this woman was my grandmother. And in fact, she had passed that week that we talked. She found her date of death.
Man, that's giving me chills.
It was
that's crazy.
I love when I don't often get a lot of feedback about it. I just sort of trust the people get what they need. Sometimes But I mean, 1 out of 50 probably come back and say, oh, this happened that you said, and that's not why I do it, so I don't really trip on it. But it is nice to get good feedback. And she said, that's why, because this woman had just passed away and she was my grandma. And she was so thrilled that she got to have post-death experience with her. And that, it just validated so much for her, because she did have love for this older woman that was just like this dear neighbor, but it was actually her grandma.
Wow. Yeah, that is so cool. And when I say take a leap of faith, you guys, sometimes it takes a leap of faith to follow spirit, to go into what you're here to do or your passions. I mean, look at Navier's life, right? I mean, what if you would have never took that leap of faith? Where would you be now? What would you be doing? Would you have had these experiences? Would you have seen into these internal realms and had these clarifications and verifications? I don't think so, right? I mean, I think we got to learn to listen to it more, don't you?
For me, it feels like I'm encouraging people to do that. From a lot of the readings I do, I'm just sort of verifying or confirming people's own gut feelings and intuition.
Yeah, me too. So, and I don't get this vibe from you. Like usually when I've talked to a lot of witches on this program, and some are darker than others, and the dark to me is just another side. It's not something to be afraid of or run from, but I don't get this vibe from you. I get more of like, I get this light vibe from you. You're more into the good stuff, aren't you?
Hufflepuff?
Yeah, I can tell. You're more into the good stuff, I think.
I feel so firmly connected to the light realm, and I think it's because I've gone super deep into my shadow. And
yes,
I think it's important to acknowledge your shadow, explore it, own it, and not live there. Like dive deep and come out clean is kind of my motto.
We got to do these deep dives in our life sometime. Do you know, speaking of astrology and stuff, and I'm sure Mary's going to talk about this tomorrow night, a lot of people, especially water and fire signs, and people that are in relationships and stuff, or with jobs, careers too, a lot of people are going through some heavy stuff right now, some heavy shadow work. They're being forced, it's almost like they don't have a choice this time. They're being forced to deal with things. And I know it's scary sometimes, but I think you got to do it, and you got to reach out for support too from the people that will support you and that don't have an agenda. And that's really hard, because sometimes a lot of your closest friends aren't the best people for you in certain situations because they have their kind of agendas. It's hard some of the stuff we got to do alone,
Yeah, or maybe they're ill-equipped, Sometimes that's the situation, is that they're just ill-equipped. Like, we don't really know how to support you because this is out of our comfort zone or out of our realm of knowledge. Maybe not that they would probably want to be there for us, but maybe aren't able to.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard Dan Lopez on here yet, but he's like one of my best friends in the world, and he co-hosts with me sometimes, and we argue about a lot of stuff. But I mean, here's a guy that doesn't know how much longer he's going to live, and yet he's even said what you just said to me, right? He's like, I don't know what to do for you, but I'm here. That's all I can do. That's a friend, right?
Does he have like a tri-state area accent?
Yeah, he sounds like he's from New York, kind of.
Yes, I've heard him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's actually a ordained minister, and he used to do his radio show, which is still archived on the Fringe FM, called Spiritual Warrior Today, and he talks about all of the stuff he went through on that show and all of his spiritual journeys. It's fascinating. So you're writing and co-illustrating a children's book that's kind of based on what happened to you in your childhood. I think that's really cool. That it's kind of like PMH Atwater is doing. We don't work with children enough. We get so wrapped up in our stories and relate to adults, when a lot of times it's the children that need help the most because they're in the toughest situations. So I think that's really cool that you're doing that.
Well, I don't have children of my own. I never really felt that strong call to motherhood. I feel like I put a lot of mothering energy as a Cancer out into the work that I do and the clients and loved ones around me. But I have 4 cats also, but I didn't feel the need to procreate. And I feel that the children of my clients have informed a lot of the book, because people have come to me saying, my child is having this experience, and I know that you deal with this sort of thing. What do I do to help them? Or I don't understand it. And I've put myself out there as a guide for their parents. So the book is a children's story, quote unquote, but it's really also a guide for the parents, maybe even more so than the children. And I just did this writer's workshop a few weeks ago, and I was telling some of the people in the group, I don't feel qualified because I don't have children. And they said, no, we need the auntie's point of view, maybe even more, because you've not had a child and had to snap into a motherhood role where you are still like your inner child is so alive. And they said, your point of view is just what we need. And that was super helpful to hear. And I went to this energetic herbal medicine school years ago in Wairika, California. Can't recommend that enough. Blue Otter, shout out to my peeps there. But I got to reunite with my former roommate. I haven't seen her in almost 10 years, and now she has a husband and 3 kids, and they're visiting the island this week. And I got to see and meet her family a few days ago, and just adored her little fairy children, and was telling her about my book. And she told me that all the information I had given them over the years, because her children are really sensitive, especially the oldest girl, have been really helpful. And how having psychic energetic boundaries and little like fun guided meditations to establish that has just been key for them, and like other little tips and tricks that I've learned that are super simple.
Wow. This is one of those stories I think that you should definitely I hope you're journaling this so you can write a biography one of these days. Guys,
I would love that.
That'd be cool, right? We'll be right back with Naviae Allora. If you got any questions, you can call in 1-800-588-0335 or put your questions in the chat. When we come back, we're going to discuss karmic lives, soulmates, soul families, soul trauma. We'll be right back.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Reverend John M. Polk. Please visit me at johnpolkmedia.com and visit my show, Quantum Hologram Matrix, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday on thefringe.fm.
Every Saturday at midnight here on The Fringe FM, you can join me, Stephen Canby, the host of The Midnight Hour Show. On my show, we explore paranormal topics with a skeptical view. We search for evidence. We search for proof. We search for the truth. Because who better than me, my friends, a magician, a man trained in the art of deception and misdirection? Who better than me to investigate for you some of the greatest mysteries on planet Earth? And I hope you will join me every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM at midnight Eastern Standard Time for the Midnight Hour Show, 9 p.m. Pacific. I want you to join me here every Saturday night at midnight for an incredible journey. Consider yourself invited. Brand new episodes of The Midnight Hour Show, available exclusively every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM. Consider yourself invited.
Join us on The Midnight. Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Root. You can also call 501-424-5130 if you want to call into the program as well. Tomorrow night on the program, our New Moon special with Mary Ducina will be on, so I'm sure the phones will be blowing up then. If you want a shot at a free reading with Mary, that's the time to do it. And we're going to probably, just remember that we do that every new moon, okay, every month. So looking forward to that. But tonight our guest is Naviae Allora, a listener of the show, but also I find it fascinating that you are very skilled spiritually too, because I think this is the first time I've had a listener come on as a guest. Not really. I've had that happen quite a bit, but more like a listener that's coming on as a guest that's really gifted at what you do, because I'm looking at all of your reviews, okay, as far as your readings go, and what people are saying. You can tell that you're making profound changes in these people's lives. And I think you're definitely on the right path as far as what you're supposed to be doing. So when you said you got your tarot deck when you were 18, was that the moment that you realized, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be helping people and learning this. Can you walk me through that experience?
So I was engaged at a really young age. I was engaged at 19, and it was this fellow's best friend that gave me a hand-me-down deck of Rider-Waite tarot. And it was missing the Wheel of Fortune, which is kind of interesting. So it wasn't a full deck. But when he gave it to me, he was like, I think you might want to check these out. And it was like someone had given me a pot of gold. I did feel that moment, you know, and this is, you know, probably 1993, 92, something. So pre-internet and all that. So I'm going to the library and taking out books on tarot and copying them by hand and just going crazy with it, sleeping with them wrapped in silk under my pillow, pulling a card every day. I got really into tarot and just felt like I had to like grok it on a cellular level, and started doing daily readings for myself, and then slowly branched out to doing friends and family. But I prefer not to do friends and family now, honestly. But I didn't read for money or professionally until I was 25. I didn't feel like I was ready or worthy or whatever. I took 7 years to really learn the tarot and feel qualified to do it. I started doing psychic fairs when I lived in Chicago area, and then started having more of a private client base. But it wasn't until, maybe 2009 that I started doing tarot like full time as my job. I was dabbling and doing it on the side and doing different things.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's so you know how many tarot readers there are out there, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a ton. And that used to bother me because people would be like just reading the pictures, and I'm like, you know, the people that designed that deck, that Rider-Waite deck, Arthur Edward Waite, was in the Golden Dawn, and he held, you know, he hid symbols on purpose, but they made Golden Dawn decks for themselves. That, anyways, there's a long story. So I would get frustrated that people weren't looking into the energies. Like there's Kabbalistic energy in there, and astrology symbols, and alchemical symbols, and a whole initiatic story in that tarot deck. And people be like, well, I just draw the cards and, you know, I just get what I feel. And I'd be like, that's, you know, the Aries, the mind in me was like, well, that's silly, right? Until I started doing it for myself. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just pick up of whatever I feel when I see the card and forget all the images and symbols and all the stuff I studied too. And I found out that, you know what, there's something to both ways. Both are valid, you know, because I think a lot of the stuff is inherent inside of us already.
Well, it's sort of like yoga. Like I went and lived at an ashram and studied with the guru from India, and everyone wore sweatpants and t-shirts, and it was very like classical Ashtanga yoga from Baba Haridas, full on. And then it got really popular. Everyone was Lululemon, you know, making their yoga temples. And I thought, oh, it's not about this. It's not about the gear. It's not about, and I found myself really judgmental about the new age yoga movement. But then I started to see the mainstream people really benefiting from practicing yoga. And I thought, okay, well, it's coming to those that are ready for it. And it's not looking how I thought it was going to look, but that doesn't equate like negativity, or it doesn't diminish it for them. On some level, it did in my eyes, because I didn't want to have that kind of experience with it. But it's a similar thing with tarot. It's so accessible. There's something easy to tap into with this system.
Yes. It's the easiest, to me, the easiest divination tool to help you once you really learn it. I mean, you can seriously like grab it as a beginner, do a Celtic cross spread. That was the first one I ever did. Read the meanings. It's the first time I ever did it too. And read the meanings in the little book. And it's so profound how accurate it is, what's going on with you. And there was a long time where I questioned the tarot, where I was like, this is all coincidence. I mean, I could draw any deck or any card, and my psychology is going to make that story about me somehow, because it wants to. That's what I thought at first, until I kept doing it, until I started. And it's one of those things, like, I can't prove it to people. But I had a neighbor come over, and he did a silly little promo. And he said, you know what, give me one of them tarot readings. That's what he calls it, one of them tarot card readings that you do. And I was like, okay. And so I gave him a reading about what was going on legally with him, and that, his spouse was on the edge about it, and that he can't do it again because, and he's like, man, we just literally had that argument. That's so crazy, And he's like, are you sure this isn't devil stuff? And I'm like, no, it's not devil stuff, It's just a way to tap in.
I love to just open the deck, like cut the deck to a random card, and then I'll shuffle and cut the deck, and it's the same card 3 times in a row. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, right. It just keeps coming out no matter how many times you try to avoid it. Yeah.
I had a Crowley deck that I worked with for a long time. I was into the OTO and doing that sort of work for a while. And the Crowley deck, I think I had some of the most synchronistic experiences with, but I actually have given it away. I've given away all my Crowley stuff when I moved to Hawaii. Yeah, I just felt like, okay, I don't need to have this energy in my house anymore. I'm done with it, but I honor it. And we actually went to Loch Ness in Scotland last year, and I was like, oh, Wolfskin House, and was looking for Nessie. And could feel
you went
a lot
to the
of magic
Boleskine
there.
estate for real?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't.
But it's on Loch Ness.
Right, it is.
I think it's just rubble now, ashes, and ashes. But anyway, but I was thinking about it. I was totally feeling the vibe there. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because that's what happened to me too. The Crowley deck was the most accurate, freakishly scary, accurate deck that I started out with, but I ended up that's when a lot of bad things started happening to me as well. So I ended up kind of cleansing my house of. I do thank Crowley for all the stuff I learned, but I'm not really going to get involved with what I call, and Gordon White says this too. It's more like, and if you're into it, that's great, but they take that sacred sexuality story, and I think a lot of people are there just to, like, I guess, I don't know, it's this kind of bad, but verify their own animalistic natures and kind of validate it by saying, okay, we're going to have a swingers club, but we're going to start this thing with a spiritual system that's real. And it's conflicting too, because when you feel dark energy, it makes you want to run away from it. But I think the good thing that Crowley did for all of us was like, hey, why are you running? Is it shame? Like he would make you look at your own shame and stuff. I mean, it really did help me.
Yeah, I understand. I really fell in love with the first chapter of the Book of the Law and that energy and prose around Nuit. And that's kind of where I lived for a while. I was just not even reading the other 2 chapters. I just wanted to be like, then saith the prophet and slave of the beauteous one. Like, I just felt like it was lyrical energy.
The goddess Nuit, yeah.
Yeah, it really connected with Our Lady Nuit and fell in love with that first chapter. That's just about her. But the rest of it isn't as lyrical. And
no, yeah.
I was being selective, but
well, if you're
I
in love with
definitely,
the night sky, then you'll fall in love with New Eat for sure.
Well, you need to come to Hawaii because we have very little light pollution, and we even have no street lights, very like low, like amber colored low watt street lights only in the city. And the stars are like nothing you've ever seen here before.
Hey,
you can see the
I've
Milky
been known
Way.
to hop on planes before, just on a whim. All right, so I
Southwest.
Yeah, I might go out there. Actually, put in the Fringe FM chat. I said we all need to take like a Void Walkers expedition to Hawaii. Come out there and hang out with you.
Oh
that
my
would
God,
be cool.
I would love that. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, it would be cool too. I'm sure we would have a cool experience. We're gonna do stuff like that. I promise you guys. We'll be doing stuff like that, like Gry America does. All right, so now you read tarot for 28 years, right? And you've got clients from all over the place. What do you think the biggest thing that you could tell a beginner tarot reader what to watch out for? Like if you could go back and talk to your beginning tarot self, when you first started doing it, what would you tell them? What advice would you give that reader?
I would say to not sort of like think of it as like a butterfly with wet wings, and allow yourself to really feel in touch with your intuition via the cards before you open yourself up to criticism or trying to put a price tag on it. Really feel like you're worthy of working with the cards. It's almost like you have to earn it. I really feel that people maybe think it's an easy way to make a living, and just sort of like, I've been reading cards for a few months, I'm going to go out there and start charging. And I feel like it cheapens the experience. Not that people who are new can't be authentic or getting good information, but I just think you need, and it's going to be a different time. It doesn't have to be 7 years like what mine was, but whatever timeline for you feels like, okay, I'm an authentic reader, and I feel ready to expose myself, to be vulnerable in that way. Because it takes a lot of guts to do a reading for someone and put yourself out there and hope that the information is accurate or that they connect to it. And there has to be a certain sweet spot that you'll hit where you feel detached from the information that you're giving, like whether you believe it or not or connect to it or not, it's your truth, and it's what's coming from spirit. And to know the difference between I'm just reading the cards and I'm actually getting information via the cards, because anyone can learn what the meanings of the cards are, but it's that sweet spot where you start to, I don't want to say channel because that's such a weird word, but receive guidance via the cards will take on a different meaning than what
they originally mean in the design, or I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like expanded upon the meaning, maybe.
Well, when I do a reading for myself, I've developed a relationship with my higher self through these cards. You know what I mean? Like I think I understand what you're getting at, because I'll pull out a card and say, I know what that means, but in this scenario, I feel like you're telling me this. And then I'll pull out a card to validate it, right? And it'll validate it. And it's like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And it's so crazy because you're like, okay, I'm having a talk with my higher self here. There's no doubt about it. But how can I prove this to anybody? You can't. So you just got to let that proof thing go, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that maybe when you get to the place where you don't feel like you need to prove it is a good place to begin to open the door to get broader with reading for other people and things like that. I would also suggest people read for strangers. It's hard for me to read for people I know well. I don't like to. I refer them to my colleagues.
Yeah, because you got some kind of, are you afraid that your bias or your subconscious or something about you is going to get involved with it and interfere?
Definitely. I can't stay that neutral with my, best friends and partner and family or whatever. It's really hard for me to do that. I don't think it's realistic. Sometimes I can if spirit's really loud and they're like, okay, look. And I just tell them what I'm getting and it comes through, but that's rare. Usually I just don't even try and touch it.
Okay. Well, this is big for a lot of people right now. And I wanted to get into this. We're about to have to come up on our news break here, but this is something you work with, okay? Soulmates, you hear people talk about this. Karmic patterns, soulmates, soul families, soul trauma, twin flames, right? This is what you hear a lot in this astrology and tarot divination realm, especially on social media, YouTube and stuff. Have you learned a lot about this? Because I'm just now getting into this kind of thing, where I'm realizing that I have had past lives with certain people in some kind of way, and I want answers about it. And it seems like the more I want the answers, the more blockages I'm creating, if that makes any sense.
I wonder why. Because
I think it's the wanting, maybe.
Okay. Well, I do the Akashic records, and that is, I'm already clairvoyant, but when I open the records, it's like I'm watching a movie in my head. It's super clairvoyant time. And I have access to, I would say parallel and past lives. It's because that's been happening a lot in the past few years. Parallel lives, which I didn't really seek out or even know were happening, but something's going on with that. But soulmates / soul families come up a lot. And I see in these readings people in different roles to each other time and time again. It seems like we have to experience the turnaround, the different relationships. I personally don't believe in twin flames. I'm actually a little bit irritated by that term, and that's not popular. But I don't believe that there's a split apart soul or a twin flame. It's not been my experience or revealed to me that that's the reality of things. It's more like we have a soul pod or a soul family that we're connected to and reincarnate with and have different lessons that we support each other learning in our earth incarnations and maybe beyond other places.
That seems more real to me, what you just said. From my experience, that seems more real, because our biggest breakthroughs are when we're in relationships with people that challenge us. Friendships, relationships, even careers sometimes. Even you get that vibe from somebody that you know that they're there to challenge your soul in some kind of way. But the twin flame thing, I think they get that idea actually from the two become one, like the mystery, kind of like the OTO, the male and female energy that's supposed to come together, which I think what they're doing is taking a hermetic mystery and making something out of it that it's not. They could be doing that,
I think it's us. I think it's our own male and female energy that's becoming one. It's not outside of you. It's not another person or another soul. I think it's your own male and female energy, whatever you identify as in your gender or non-binary. It doesn't really matter. We still have male and female energy that's alive, and we need to embrace it. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, I think you could be right about that too. I want to expand on this a little bit further with you, just because this is a topic I've been talking about behind the scenes with people for a little while. So maybe you're the perfect person to discuss this with right now. We'll be right back with Naviae Allora. We're at our news break here. Halfway through already. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast. Need another late night fix? You can tune in every weeknight to Lighting the Void with Joe Root on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
I like to listen to Lighting the Void because of the guests, the content, and the host, Joe Root. He's smart, He's intelligent, and he seems to ask the questions that we all have on our mind. We're all searching for the truth, and Joe helps us get closer to it. I love this show. I love this show. I love this show. Lighting the Void.
What's up, Joe? Hey man, I just wanted to say your show, dude, keeps getting better and better and better. I love Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. The National UFO Reporting Center, which tracks calls and messages from people around the United States and Canada, reported that it received 5,971 sightings in 2019, a jump from 3,395 in 2018. California led the country this year with the most number of UFO sightings, 485 in total, an increase of 182 sightings from 2018. Florida came in second with 385 sightings in 2019. A daytime UFO sighting was reported in Los Angeles to MUFON earlier this month. 3 orbs were followed by a group of 5 orbs that caught up with the first 3 orbs and then made a pentagon shape. The orbs reportedly held their shape for several minutes. The witness stated, "I've observed many satellites passing over, and these orbs have the appearance but not the speed. It took about 12 minutes for them to go 25 degrees to about 90 degrees, really slow." A former United States Air Force intelligence expert believes that the mysterious swarm of drones spotted in recent weeks over Colorado may not be drones at all, but new state-of-the-art military technology. Mike Tuber, U.S. Air Force intelligence, explains to the Daily Star.
I've seen several videos now that I've kind of gotten into this. I'm pretty much a debunker or what have you, but I never jumped on the UFO bandwagon or whatever. But as I'm watching some of these videos, I'm seeing some objects that look a lot like what the Tic Tac would be. There's one where an aircraft is flying and one just zooms by at a ridiculous speed. And then, of course, the ones going over the Colorado area. And the thing about the Air Force is that we mean, just like anything that they do, it takes like 15 to 20 years before some of the stuff leaks out at this level.
Local law enforcement has been unable to identify the drones, and even the Federal Aviation Administration is at a loss to explain them. The Foothills Conservancy of Northern Carolina says it's closed on 17 acres in Burke County in December, with the help of money from a private donor. Multiple Bigfoot sightings have been reported in the area over recent years, according to Bigfoot researchers. Burke County is also home to the Brown Mountain Lights, a series of ghost lights reported near Brown Mountains in North Carolina. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Broadcast tonight, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be on. We have programming here for you 5 nights a week, all the way up from drive time times, all the way into the wee early hours of the morning. And then the rest of the day, we usually have rebroadcasts on. And so it is cool being a Fringe radio host. We're mostly nighttime lovers here. And you can also donate to the show if you go to lightingthevoid.com. We could sure use it. So please donate at the bottom there, and you can also donate on the Fringe FM, or grab you a shirt or t-shirt or swimsuit or socks. We've got some really cool overpriced socks there. Do you hear that? There's an animal by the shack. Did you hear that? When it starts up again, I'm going to let you guys hear that. Naviae Allora is our guest tonight, and listen to this, Naviae. What is this? Hold on.
Wow.
You hear that?
Sounds like a big squeak.
It's gone now. See, last time it was crickets. Now it's, well, I don't know what that is.
Possum.
I hope it's not a possum. It better not be. All right. So anyways, before the break, I was asking you about the soulmate stuff, the soulmate connections. And you were talking about twin flames. Like, you don't really believe in the twin flame thing. And I'm starting to realize that too, like this two become one thing is really all about getting more in touch with our own energy, right? So just as an example, if you took someone that's extremely feminine, they might have issues or karmic stuff with their masculine energy that they're not getting in touch with. Or if you have somebody that's extremely masculine, they may have issues, insecurities, or karmic stuff that they're not dealing with their feminine side, right? And where we work this stuff out, I think, I think we work this stuff out alchemically through ourselves, but also through our experiences and relationships with people. What do you think?
I think so. And I don't even know if I've put it in the terms of balancing your male and female energy, but I've experienced it as far as people having soul family or soulmates experience where they're having past life experiences with that person, and it's bleeding into present day lives. I see that a lot.
Like somebody had a past life, maybe a couple had a past life together, and there was some bad stuff that happened, and it bleeds through their current life. And
it doesn't always necessarily have to be bad. It could just be karma, some sort of charge that they're haven't resolved or need to either have a different experience, a different like turnaround perspective. Sometimes you see that. Like, for example, I had shared earlier that I almost drowned and my mom watched me.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing a trade with someone that is also a medium and a clairvoyant, and they don't know really anything about my life. And my mom had just passed away, or maybe she was in the process. She sort of lingered for a while before she actually transitioned. But this person did a reading, and she said, wow, your mom and you have this past life issue, and they're showing her. And sometimes when people are reading my Akashic records or reading my past lives, I get a vision of it. So this was one of the situations that I was able to tap in and see what she was seeing. And some of my clients see what I see also. So it's a shared vision.
Interesting.
Yeah. So one of my so she was reading this past life with my mother, and she said, "Oh, you were your mother's mother, and she was a little boy, and she fell in a well, and you watched him drown. He was a little boy, like under 6, and I saw him. Sorry, I still feel emotion around it. I saw him drowning, and he was far in the well, and I couldn't save him.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so sometimes we need to have experience where, we're the abuser or we're the abused, or we're, a lot of like unrequited love stories, or people who are together or want to be together, but, someone died in the war, never came back, or, was betrothed to their sister, but they were in love with them. I mean, I've seen so many different scenarios where people now, like they'll say, I just want a past life reading with this person, and not even tell me anything about them except maybe their first name. And these people are strangers to me. And I'll start telling them what I see. Wow, I see this man, gives you his handkerchief. That means you're to be together. And then he leaves off, he goes to war, and you get a letter and he doesn't come back. And that's why you have this longing for him. And they'll say that happened in this lifetime. He was in an arranged marriage and we couldn't be together, or different sort of situations that repeat.
Cycles that they keep repeating. But how do you get that how do you heal that? Or how do you stop it? Is it just by recognizing it, saying, okay, I know what this is now? I think there's a lot of introspection that has to happen. I really do.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of healing that comes just from the awareness and having someone from outside of it tell you the story. And then a lot of times people recognize it as truth. I was married before, and I had a really strong connection to my ex-mother-in-law, and it was weird. She was very Christian, very Republican, and not at all into my sort of ideas, but we loved each other deeply, and it wasn't an issue. And I had my first past life reading, and the woman said to me, the woman who is your mother-in-law now is your sister from a past life. And I wasn't even reading records yet. This is like in the early 90s. And I saw what she was talking about. I saw this ex-mother-in-law and I in a big, like Laura Ingalls Wilder bed, like on the prairie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I said that I saw us there, and we were terrified of our father. And she says, yes, you had no love from your parents, but you had each other. And I just started to cry. I had all this like flood of memories and emotions. And I called her and I said, oh my gosh, I just had this reading, and they said that we were sisters, and I saw it, and we had this strict, stern father, and we were really like, made to work, and there was no love, but we had each other. And she said, I don't believe in any of this, but I know what you're saying to be true.
Really? Yeah, that's so interesting. I get that with my son too. I had my ex-wife, she used to say, you guys act like brothers and friends more than you do as father. And I don't know why he seems to respond to you more than he does me. It used to make her mad, and I could always get on his level. And I had a few readings from different people that verified it, telling the same story, that we were brothers in the Confederate Army. And these people didn't know each other, 3 different readers. And that in my past life, my father now, who's my dad now, was actually a general that we had ran into, and I guess it's weird telling it because a lot of people told me this story, and found us. Like, we lost a battle, but he found me and, my brother, which is my son now, very young, and we went into the war to get away from our parents. And instead of taking us prisoner or killing us, because he knew that something bad was going to happen to us, he felt like he needed to protect us, so he knocked us out and threw us in the back of a wagon, right?
Wow.
Like he hit us with the butt of a gun when we wasn't looking and threw us in the back of a wagon to protect us. And 3 different readers told me that story to the T that don't know each other. And I told my father about it, and my father doesn't believe in any of this stuff. He thinks it's from Satan, right? But he started bawling. Like when that emotion hits you like that, there's something real about it, for sure.
Yeah. I still can feel, I can still tap into it. And I actually I had taken my courses learning the records when I was married at that time, and they came to visit us, and I offered readings to my mother and father-in-law, and she said, okay, I don't really believe in any, but I'll try. And we went into a reading, and when I tuned in, there was like a legion of her ancestors standing behind her wanting to talk. And one at a time, I'm like, okay, so-and-so is here, and they're saying this, and her mouth is dropping, but she's like, and wanting more detail and very kind of skeptical about it. And I'm seeing this man like in a army uniform, and she's like, oh, I think that's my father, and he was in the army, and this is his band photo. And I'm describing all this, and I saw this like playroom that was made of these linoleum tiles with like ABCs and like storybook things on it. It was all faded, and it was a man and a woman there showing me this floor, and I'm describing it. And she said, oh, this is my aunt and uncle from, when I was a kid, I would go and stay with them in Ohio and this and that. And then she's like, but what are their names? And, how do I know this is real? Like she would accept it and then challenge it like in the next breath.
Yeah.
And then finally, all of these beings, all of these ancestors stopped giving me information, and they said in a collective roar, we are not here to convince her. And I didn't even want to say it to her. And they said, tell her.
Yeah, you had to.
And I was like, well, they all just said they're not here to convince you, and stopped telling me anything. And she just shut her mouth and walked out of the room. And then later, her husband said, I think you owe her an apology. Go ahead. And she said, I'm really sorry that I was so hard on you. Everything that you said was very accurate, and I just didn't know how to accept the information.
What about timing, right? This is something I'm worried. I kind of, now that you've been listening to the show for a few months, right? So you've probably heard me express how I'm against dabblers, right? I think if you're going to practice magic, you need a good foundation. If you're going to do practices. And what I found is there are people that are selling these like love spell stuff, love and breakup spells as courses. We all know, because we was talking about this the other night, on Shutterstock, that magic is on the rise big time. It's a fact now. And what's going on, I wonder sometimes, and I wonder if I may have done this myself too. Like, I've never in my entire life, other than one time, cast a spell or any kind of thing towards an individual. I would always say, hey, I'm ready for this in my life right now, or something like that. If, let's say, you try to manifest a certain soulmate in your life and they come around because you were asking for it at the wrong time, which causes wrong timelines to line up. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't the right time, but because you went out and did this thing, you caused it to appear, and it's not the right time for it. Does that make sense? I get that kind of vibe sometimes too.
I feel like there's a lot of dabbling going on, and that's part of why I'm doing the Year of the Witch course, because I really want to give an opportunity for people to have a solid foundation and troubleshoot their path for them. I don't think it's a good idea to dabble. I really don't. I agree with you there. I think it's super dangerous, honestly.
Everybody thinks I'm always pushing, not everybody, but a lot of people think that I push the Golden Dawn as the only way to have a foundation. It's not. For me, it is, because it's so structured, but because it forces you to learn, focus and meditation first and breathing, and then it goes into the elements, and the elements are just parts of your psyche, your material world, your intelligence and your thoughts, your emotions, and your passion and love, right? So you're dealing with all these elements before you ever start messing with planets and all this other stuff. And these things, we got people that dabble with magic that haven't dealt with these things about themselves, or are not at a certain level, you know, and are getting their subconscious or fears or some of the darkest stuff about themselves involved with the magic. And I'm kind of worried that it's going to backfire on people, but you can't do anything about it. But I do kind of warn against that, you know, sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I feel like people that start to dabble maybe don't believe it's real yet.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah.
And think that there's no fallout from the dabbling or repercussions from maybe doing some, we'll call it black magic, because I think anything that would impose your will on others is like a non-consensual spell, is sort of like a black magic. I mean, the definitions are up for debate, but that's kind of how I define it, is like you're saying, if you want to find a partner or have a love come into your life, open it up as I'm calling in the most benevolent outcome to receive love. It doesn't have to be a specific person.
That's right.
I think that's super non-consensual is the way I want to term it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
A little bit rapey.
You know, so you're saying if you call just for that energy or that thing to come into your life, right? You may pull that person out of a timeline that it's not time for that yet, right? I wonder about that.
If you're specific about it, if I was say I was crushing on you, and I'm like, I want Joe to love me, and I'm going to do a spell to conjure that and bring him to me. That is black magic.
Yeah.
Because I'm calling you in specifically, and I don't know what your situation is, that you aren't saying to me, I want to be in a relationship with you. I'm just saying I want it, and I'm not consulting you at all. I'm just calling that in and aggressively pulling you towards me, non-consensually.
Which you might get I think that creates one of those be careful what you wish for things, because I may come into your life and cause some kind of havoc or healing that you're not ready for, you know?
Sure.
But then again, if that happens, that's where I get perplexed, because if something good comes out of the situation, regardless of what it is, even if it's healing or something, then was it really out of time? Right? Was it really out of timeline? See, this is the kind of stuff I sit and think about, because that twin flame thing you brought up, I believe there's a lot of people out there for a lot of people. I've always believed that, but that doesn't mean that I don't want that lifelong partner. A lot of people want that. So it's weird that when you call for something like that, that one person will come around. There's a book by, I think there's what's the book? It's The Seven Spheres by The Seven Spheres. I'll have to get the author in a minute, but they talk about that, you know. It's weird how it would pull one person. Why? I guess what I'm confused about is if you call for that energy, right, and 4 or 5 people show up in your life, you got options now. You can pick.
Mm-hmm.
But if one person only shows up, then are you certain there's no such thing as a twin flame, right? Or is it a karmic thing? Maybe it's the universe saying, hey, we'll do this for you, but you need to work this thing out first. That's the stuff I get perplexed about.
I feel like, first off, I think that if I pulled you into my timeline, I'm creating a new timeline by doing that. So if I didn't conjure that love spell commanding you to come and be my partner or my love or whatever, then we would probably not intersect in that way. But because I did a commanding love spell, a non-consensual love spell, now you're over here and a new timeline is being forged from that from that magic.
Yeah.
If you were willing to be cajoled from that magic, I don't even know. Maybe you would sense it and be like, because we do have free will, but sometimes we're influenced magically, right?
Yeah, big time. And we don't know it. We don't even know it. And I think if you start a spiritual and magical practice and you let your guard down for a minute, that's usually when that's when that stuff happens. It comes in and you're like, I should have cleansed myself from this or that. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff, man, because I would definitely be interested in getting a reading about past lives and stuff, because it's the first time. I'm almost 40. I've never had that lock in with somebody where you're like, hey, I think I know you from a past life. But this year, I've met 4 people like that just in this year.
Yeah, I would love to do that with you.
Yeah, so it's pretty trippy, actually, that's going on. But a lot of people are interested in this stuff. It's not just me. A lot of people really want to know the truth about this.
I have found in my relationships that past, how can I say this? Soulmates are sort of so there's usually a big charge around soulmates when we meet them. This feeling of like familiarity and connection and like attraction. But it's sort of like a karmic, universal lore that gets us involved and interested in this person. So we want to explore this connection. And then once we're in it, it's like, whoa, all this baggage, all this stuff we got to, lessons to unpack. And it's not pleasant most of the time.
Right. I see exactly what you're saying. But those deepest soul connections are the ones, like I believe in alchemy, right? I really do. I think it's something, I think there's an ascension process that the soul goes through. And when things are comfortable, when things are great and easy and comfortable for us, I'm not saying the soul doesn't grow then. I'm sure it does from experience. We love to experience those things in our life. But I really think the soul grows when it comes into contact with heavy conflict, where there's blockages, where there's karmic stuff, where there's deep-seated insecurities and even attachments, even toxic things. When you see those types of things happening, we always want to point our finger and blame the other person, right? But we don't look in ourselves to see why that's happening to us. We always do that. We say, it's the other person. I need to burn this bridge, or I need to run away or something. And I'm telling you guys, if you do that, you're going to keep wrapping around to it. Another person's going to come along, and you're still going to end up facing it. And it's like you're stagnant. You're not growing as a soul. Because I'm just saying this based on my experience, right? So I'm no longer afraid of conflict or anything like that. I try to figure out why it's happening. But that's something recently that I went through, and it was so crazy, man, because I did that one. It was like a planetary invocation for love and soul connections, and as well as earthly things. And I've met 4, possibly 5 people that I know there's something there from a past life. There's some kind of soul thing or contract going on,
It's definitely a real thing. And I'm not saying that having soulmate connections or soul family connections is always negative, or even if it's challenging that it's negative. I think it's the biggest opportunity to grow and evolve, just like you're saying. I just got to a place where I was having so many soulmate experiences that were heavy that I was just ready to be alone with my cat and not have any. I just asked for my joy partner to come to me,
right,
and let it be a joyful experience. Like, you can have soulmates that are your joy family and not folks that are here for a rematch or folks that are here to teach you something big and heavy. Sometimes it's okay to ask for the light and joyful too.
Yeah. You're in Hawaii. I think you're experiencing that in a location too. Do you think we have those type of soul ties to locations on the planet?
Absolutely. And you can discover them through astrocartography. Have you heard of that?
No. Well, wait a minute. Yes, I have. Recently, actually. Yes. But I didn't really look into it. Tell me about it.
I've been digging on that for a long time. If you go to, I think it's astro.com, and there's a section you can go to that's astrocartography, and it'll give you the global, the world map, and show you where, based on your astrology, on your natal chart, the different points, like your Venus line or your sun line or your midheaven line, and then different places like, say, your Saturn line, maybe not the best place to set up shop, because that's going to be Saturn is a challenging aspect most times.
You want to hear something funny? My Saturn line's right where I'm at. I know what you're talking about. Jeff Harmon did that for me, and my Saturn line is right on top of where I am right now. Yeah.
I think I have. You should see what Hawaii is for you, because where I grew up, I think, is my Saturn line or my Mars line. I forget, but I know it's a challenging, like, can't feel at home. I never felt at home where I grew up, and felt like I was going to be moving farther afield I was 23 when I moved away or whatever. But it's interesting to see places that you're drawn to or attracted to. A lot of times it's where your, say, Venus or sun line is more harmonious.
Yeah. So I'm not always going to be on a hill out here, I don't think. I'm ready to have a longer journey somewhere else for sure. But yeah, this is interesting, fascinating, and synchronistic conversation that we're having tonight. We'll be right back. We're in the last hour of the program already. Stay with us.
Joseph Roop is your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Right, my old shiners,
I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Light in the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of the fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
I really think some of the coolest stuff gets talked about during the break. So we kept kind of talking about this soul tie connection stuff with people during the break, and I'm here with I can't pronounce your name all of a sudden. I think
Naviae.
Naviae Allora. Yeah, I said it a million times, and I don't want to mess it up. The website is awonderingwitch.com as well. A new listener to the show, been listening for a few months now, and I'm already learning a lot from you, but you said something special to me during the break that I'm starting to realize about myself, too. That was like, there's nothing more, you said there's nothing sadder than a broken Aries, right? Mm-hmm. And, I started realizing that some of the stuff I've realized lately is when I was doing some digging down into myself is that I've got a part of me that I have to take care of that I can't. It's going to take a lot for me to give away to somebody else. But at the same time, and I know that a lot of you can relate to me to this because a lot of you have, at the same time, I'm a hopeless romantic as far as creativity goes, as far as passion goes. So I almost feel like if I don't have the fairy tale thing, if I don't totally give myself away, then I'm missing out on something. And this is something I've dealt with since I was a teenager, right? But if I get to the point to where I feel like I'm being tested or my self-respect is being tested, I always go with the self-love and self-respect thing because I have to, if that makes sense, right?
I feel like you can be in devotion to someone and not lose yourself. And I think that's your Cancer moon and my Cancer sun talking. Like, I totally get that. That's been and my sun is in the 7th house of Libra. So I have that background Libra energies and you have that Libra rising. Like, I totally get it. My Mars is in Aries, which is its home there. So I have at the bottom of my chart, this like core Martian energy, Mars in Aries saying like, we won't be dominated. We have this like fight to the death sort of, resilience and strength, core strength that the Aries gives us. And we want to protect and we want to defend those that can't be defending themselves.
Right.
It's a very noble energy when it's properly aspected or positively aspected. It can go horribly awry too. But I think that the key is to find that balance of we can be in utter devotion to someone else and to love but not give up our own self-love and our own self-focus. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, do you think that people's rising signs are really well, you said the North Node is something you're supposed to learn, and the Golden Dawn teaches that too. But the rising sign to me is almost like the one thing that's going to help you learn or to get to that North Node lesson, because I'm a Libra rising, and the more I do this, the more I go through this, the more I'm learning to balance those things, no matter which side of me gets tested, whether it's emotionally or I guess dominantly gets tested. I'm learning I have to balance those out, because if I hide my emotions too much, then you look like a freaking, I don't know, a jerk. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
if you become too emotional and you just open that up and let it fly out as much as you want to, it's very dangerous to your psyche. It's very dangerous to yourself, especially if you haven't done the work yourself, So that Libra part of me is balancing things out. And I think a lot of people's rising signs, they need to pay far more attention to, because it's there to teach them something about themselves and how to balance their own energies, I think.
For me, I look at the ascendant or the rising sign as the lens that all of the energy can come through and be perceived. And in our case, we both have our ascendant matches our North Node. For whatever reason, that's how it's constructed. And the South Node is like the tool basket that you come in with, the gifts and abilities and the things that come easy to you that you've already mastered. And it's easy to stay in that tool basket. But the North Node is the opposite. It's across the chart from the South Node, and it's the polar opposite of what you're comfortable with. So you have to strive to attain, get out of your comfort zone and access the opposite gifts. So Cancer is my South Node, which is the work I'm doing, right? Psychic, medium,
right.
Nurturer, etc. But then Capricorn is the ruler. It's the emperor. It's the boss. It's the person in charge of themselves. It's very much like, I'm going up this hill. Y'all can come if you want, but I'm on my journey and I'm not going to get slowed down by anything else. And that's not a Cancerian thing. Cancer stops and helps everybody, and is everyone okay, and super watery and flowing into the other. So it's like cardinal earth versus cardinal water. And for me, I look at Capricorn North Node and Cancer South Node, and they say it's the journey from the empath to the ruler. And every South and North Node combination has a story like that. And there's a lot of wisdom there. And for some reason, I have ascendant Capricorn, so people can sort of see that grounded Earth Mother side of me that's almost invisible to myself. I don't see it as much as people around me are like, oh, you seem super grounded and capable and in touch with this and that Capricorn traits. And it's taken me a long time to really recognize that in myself too. And I'm growing into it.
I think everybody's pulling out their charts right now. I know Dan is,
There's so much wisdom in the North and South nodes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So for example, I think this happens with a lot of people in our lives. Like Dan, I feel like is a brother of mine. And if I tell somebody, I know this about myself too. If I tell somebody, it takes a lot for me to say it, but eventually, if I tell somebody that I love you, or I'm loyal to you, or you're one of my best friends, it's not a small thing to me. There are personality types where they throw around words, and I used to get angry about that, but I realized, okay, that's just their personality type. But when I say these things, I mean it, right? So Dan is like a brother to me, but at the same time, what I'm trying to talk to you about is like, he challenges me in ways that's almost, it's painful. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but at the same time, I grow so much from it. And because I'm about growth, I'm attracted to those things. I'm attracted to things that make me want to grow spiritually and alchemically, which causes me not to have so many breaks, joy and fun breaks. Maybe I need a joy partner, like you're talking about, just for a little while, or a joy break. You know.
Well, the struggle doesn't have to be from your beloved. Life, I'm sure, will provide opportunities for you to grow and evolve and overcome what you've come here to overcome. But maybe it doesn't have to be always in the love relationship department. I think maybe we think it has to be a struggle. I think I did. I thought I had to, fight for the love or, and I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I want it to be gentle and easy, and I want my relationship to be something I can hold with both hands and relax.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you have 2 signs in your north node? More than one?
I don't think so. I think it's one definite sign.
Okay.
It could be on the cusp.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on, because I've got Cancer in my north node too. That's weird. Okay.
You have Cancer north node?
Yeah, so it says north node in Cancer in the 9th house, and also and also north node in Sagittarius, and in the 9th house, and north node in Cancer on the 4th house.
Maybe you have south and north node.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
So the north node, the south node is like a U down, I think, and the north node is up.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah, because they call it the head and the tail of the dragon and the golden dawn. Yeah. So right. Here's the thing. This struggle that people go through with love and relationships happens for a reason, because I don't think that we're understanding polarity, right? Like, I always take everything back to the Hermetic principles. And if you can understand polarity, then you can understand attraction. And I think a lot of times when people say they're in love, that's just kind of like heavy attraction. When a mature, I would, in my eyes, a person that's done this a few times knows that attraction comes and goes, but deep love takes time. It does. To me, it does anyways. And when we get out of like say when a man gets out of his masculine energy, and this isn't just a belief. I mean, you can go experiment with this yourself. But when a man gets out of his masculine energy, it becomes unattractive to feminine energy. Even though a woman might say to you, or somebody that's super feminine might say to you, that they want you to share your emotions with them. They want to know the deepest parts of you. They want you to cry and be sensitive and all this stuff, because it's an honor to them consciously to witness that. It's an experience for them. But at the same time, their subconscious and their biological programming through the universal laws, when they wake up the next day, they may not feel the same about you attractive-wise. And I see this happen a lot, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see people suffering because they don't understand the laws of polarity and gender and attraction. But then again, if you meet a couple that is mature about it, like they know about it, they know how to play, they know what's going on, right? I mean, they can see this happening. They're not victims to it anymore. They can create attraction in their life and stuff. And this is a struggle that a lot of people go through, period. That's something I've learned.
Do you think the same is true if a woman shows her masculine energy?
Yes,
that
I do.
A man feels turned off by it?
Yes. No, not a man. Okay. So if a man is if he's in his extremely dominant or masculine energy, right? And a woman shows the same thing, there will be conflict, period. Period. There's going to be conflict. There's not going to be attraction. It's going to be quite the opposite. However, if a man has a lot of feminine traits, right, or he gets into his feminine, and a woman is being masculine or dominant or something, right, then there will be an attraction there. See, and it's this whole, and it also relates to the dominant and submissive energies as well. It's the poles on the tree, right? It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
And we get caught up in these situations in our lives where we fall in love with somebody, and then especially, this is why I talk about being authentic. It's great to be passionate, but if you're not who you really are up front and authentic who you really are up front, it's going to cause problems, right? So this happens to a lot of people, and then they go through extreme pain only to realize that they just need to be themselves and find somebody that will love them to be themselves. And this is what I had to realize, is because I have both inside of me. I'm not just extremely male with no emotions, but I do have that side to me. But I also have the Cancer side to me, and my Moon side, the one that I struggle with. And now that it makes sense that it's in my North Node, the one that I need to learn to be okay with, for fear of someone losing a feminine energy, losing attraction. What I need to do, and I think what a lot of other people need to do, is be okay with their energies and call to the universe to say, hey, send me somebody that will love me for my authentic self, somebody I don't have to hide from.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that will just love both parts of me, if you're that way. But there are people that are just extremely feminine, or a little bit of both, or a little bit lean to one or the other. I mean, come on, right? You see this happen with girls in high school when they first start learning about it. They always fall in love with the jerks or abusive people, and they don't know why they're attracted to them. But because that abusive guy is extremely masculine, rarely shows, if they're extremely feminine, but rarely shows any dominant type of or feminine type of traits. So when they go out in the real world and they look for attraction any other way, especially like high school, they don't find it, because they got all these guys that were consciously taught, they just need to be sweet and all this other stuff. And that may work for a little while, but it doesn't work. It doesn't last, And so because we don't see these hermetic laws or these universal laws in our relationships, we suffer, I think. I really do. What do you think about it?
I feel that everyone embodies both genders or both polarities.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel pretty balanced as a female because of my Grand Fire Trine and having Aries so prominent in my chart. And I really do honor when men can be in touch with their soft side or their feminine side or their emotions. And I see a lot of people younger than me, like the millennials or whatever you want to call it, that are showing up more balanced, I think, than Gen X, my generation, did.
Right.
And for sure, like my parents' generation, they were really encouraged to be in the gender roles. And now it's sort of bleeding into the other in different balances. I think that's positive mostly. And I feel that we can support each other exploring what we need to explore as far as our sensitivities and our strengths and who we want to be. It's okay to be soft and be held. And it's also okay to feel that you want to be in charge. Like, we all run the gamut. I don't think there's any one way to be an embodied man or female or anything in between.
So here's the problem, though, with this, right? People are being taught, and you can go on YouTube and look this up, okay? People are being taught by relationship experts that they need to be a certain way. They need to act a certain way in order to get attraction back in their life from a specific partner. They're being taught these things. Even when these things go against who they really are, they still want to play these games because they want this other person so bad instead of just being who they are, which I believe you are correct, that everybody has this male and female energy, masculine, feminine, dominant, submissive energy inside them. It's just to what extent and finding the right compatible person to be with. That's it.
That's
it to me.
the greatest lesson that I learned in relationships was being real enough and honest enough with myself to, after dating someone for a few months and really getting to know who they were, to not be attached to having them be my be all end all, end up with this person, but to treat it like an interview, treat it like I'm trying this person on, and does it really work? Does it really fit? And at a certain point, you feel like, you know what? I can't move forward with this person as is. I'm not going to try and change them. I'm not going to see all the good that they are that works for me and then pick out these 10 things that don't work and then go on a campaign of trying to upgrade them to fit what I need them to be. Either you accept them as is right now, in the moment, or let them go on to find someone who can. And we seem to get invested right away and be like, well, there's these 25 awesome things about this person, but, you know, I don't like how they dress and they swear a lot or they're not vegan. And it's like,
who cares about that? That's like mundane stuff to me, the vegan stuff, you know, or whatever. You know.
It's a big deal to some people, you know, that's just off the top of my head, but whatever, you know, things that you aren't okay with about that person, you know, and then go on this like, well, I'm going to get them healthier. I'm going to get them to see why I'm right and they need to jump on my bandwagon. And that often backfires. And I think it's just empowering yourself to be courageous and seeing the person for who they are and honoring them. You get to be who you are as is. I can't accept it. You're not a good match for me. And move on. It's hard to do that.
And I think you'll feel that energy too, don't you? When people are inauthentic, you can feel it. It makes you. It makes me kind of angry because I'm authentic. I don't like being angry. Yeah,
it feels like sandpaper on my skin.
And it's sad too because I've seen also people that suffer that would be a much more productive and beautiful person when they are in their authentic self, and they're like almost overwhelming, you know. But because they're hang-ups, but they don't feel like they can be, and it's not their fault. It's like their upbringing, but they got to see it and fix it. And I think that's some things that I'm going through too, right? I got to be okay with showing my emotions more instead of keeping it all balled up all the time, right? And then not worry about the other person so much.
It's like embracing your eccentricity, embracing your authentic self, and not being afraid of being a weirdo.
Yeah, right. And this is the fringe, man. This is where all the weirdos come to. You belong here.
Fly your freak flag, everybody. And people love you when you're real and different and unique. That's what you get to bring to the table.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's this. Now, I'm not saying all relationship experts are causing you to suffer, but a lot of them are, honestly. A lot of the games that you're taught to play with people are causing you to suffer and will backfire on you. Like there's this one guy like Alex Allman who he teaches a lot about passion and sex and stuff like that, but he's an authentic dude. He's not afraid to show his emotional side or anything. So he teaches in a way to where it's all about being passionate and authentic, you know? And if that's the kind of person you are, I jive with that guy. But if you're taking relationship advice and somebody's trying to teach you how to pick up somebody or something and it don't feel right to you energetically, there's probably a reason for it because it don't sync up with who you are, you know? Yeah. So
it's probably a short-lived relationship if you're not coming forward with your authentic self. Because eventually, I mean, you can't keep that ruse up forever.
No. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't.
And this is something I'm learning too now is that the planets, though you can try to hide from it all you want, but eventually there's going to, an energetic cycle is going to come around in your life once, maybe twice or whatever. That's going to be like, well, we tried to warn you to deal with this, but now you're going to have to, you know.
It's like the Tower card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here comes the Tower card. We've knocked politely a few times, and now here comes the wrecking ball.
Yeah. So, Pacho says my North Node is in Cancer, and he is a Libra rising. So he's just like me, actually, when it comes to that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He was so pleasant to deal with. He's a gem.
Yeah,
Thank
he's
you,
a cool
Pacho.
dude.
Yeah.
One of the best. See.
So if we had a baby, it'd be Pacho, because
That's right.
I am Sag Moon and he's Sag Moon, and you both have your ascendant and North Node the same. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, Pacho, it's kind of funny that he came into my life as a producer, because here's another friend that's showing me be more who you are. You know, it's the Aries and Martian inside of me that wants to dominate things. So it's like I get extremely male and dominant sometimes, but when I get into that feminine side of myself, I don't like it. I feel like it's a weak thing, you know, and I've been struggling with that my whole life, but I'm slowly learning that it's not a weak thing at all, you know, to let it go. Just let it fly.
The most powerful thing is to be completely vulnerable, and then you are invulnerable.
That's so true.
You have nothing to hide at that point. You're just, I am who I am. It's out there, and you're not hiding. You're just real.
So true.
And it takes a lot of bravery to be that and to walk with that kind of. So I don't know if you've ever gotten into the asteroids in astrology.
Like Chiron?
Chiron and Lilith and Vesta. There's tons of them, like probably hundreds and hundreds of asteroids if you go on to the astro.com and see all the possibilities that you can get on your chart. But I did an asteroid chart a few years ago, and I had Lilith in the 12th house, and I was looking up the Sabian symbols, if you've ever heard of that.
Yep,
they're like terse little phrases. And my North Node, my Lilith is in my 12th house with my North Node, and it says my Sabian symbol is a flag bearer in battle.
Wow.
And that imagery just hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, wow, here's this flag bearer walking in front of the troops with no weapon. It's just, I got my flag and I'm waving the flag and like completely undefended in a way.
My Chiron's in Scorpio. What's that mean? That's bad, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like whatever is going on in your Chiron has, it's like there's so many soul wounds that we're here to work on, but the Chiron soul wound is the main one, is the one that we're really looking at and dedicated to focusing on. That's kind of how I look at it. What house is your Chiron in?
Well, it says 8th house.
You have 8th house Scorpio?
And Chiron, yeah. Or Chiron.
Oh, wow.
So if you read a chart, like I've read a chart like from top to bottom, a full report for somebody, and watched them cry because it really picks their life apart, you know. And it's scary for somebody that doesn't want people to know a lot about them. And but I think we could use astrology to learn how to love people better. We need to pay more attention to it, man. Not just read it once and put it up. Like, pay attention to it, you know? I mean, mine says represents issues with one's vital force to transform and to regenerate. It gives me a strong compulsion for intimate connection with other people, but I have a lot of physical emotion and a lot of physical pain in those situations, right? So it causes me suffering, but it causes me a lot of joy, and there's a drive. There's something there I have to work out, you see.
This is what your Chiron and Scorpio blurb is saying?
That's what it's saying under Astrograph, yeah.
Oh, wow. So I think about Scorpio as a power struggle, or the shadow, thinking about like sex and death and all that super like things that are hidden and secret. And especially being in the 8th house, that just amplifies it because it's in its home there. Yeah, 8th house is Scorpio ruler.
You're likely to have been
Scorpio.
emotionally or even physically abused as a child, which is so true, right? Possibly through early experiences. As a consequence, being close to other people becomes both desired and as well painful. You hold off the prospect of closeness with others with some carefully engineered defenses, such as retreating from expressing your true feelings, right? See, so this is where I'm at in my life. I know this about myself now because of my experiences that I've had.
Yes.
You
like
see?
a mirror.
That's right. That's exactly right. I know this about myself. I also know that instead of, I'm going to have to pull these defenses down, and as authentic as I love to believe I am I truly authentic to myself? Because according to this and according to my experiences, I'm not. I'm still holding up defenses there. You see?
Well,
when I should just dive.
Scorpio is like frozen water. It's the iceberg, right? So if Cancer is the liquid form of water, Scorpio is the ice. It's the solid. And we only get the tip of the iceberg, literally, with Scorpio energy. My midheaven's in Scorpio. I get it. It's like this mystery that we need to sort of chisel and melt and get deeper into. And it's only through a process of, I want to say, I don't even know. Like it's like the rawest kind of shadow work wherever your Scorpio is, I think. And it could be the richest lessons there.
Yeah, you grow a lot and emotionally. You will grow a lot emotionally through Scorpio energy, for sure, if you allow it, if you don't run from it, you know. But that kind of dark stuff scares a lot of people. You know, they don't want to go there. I mean, we're talking about deep stuff here.
I understand.
And then you got people that are Scorpios that constantly suffer because they're constantly going there in a world that doesn't accept that. If that makes sense, you know. Or in a world where they feel like they're going to be judged for it. And I know 3 Scorpios right now, and everything's starting to make sense to me. Like, intimately, I know 3 Scorpios, and everything's starting to make sense to me as to why. Because I used to think, man, what are they, addicted to their suffering? It's almost like a comfort place for them. But they're forced to go back into it because they do not feel accepted. They don't feel loved, right? I mean, that's a damn scary place to be. It's sad. It really is. It hurts to think about. But all of us, I believe, in our soul journey are going to go through this. So it's not like we can point our finger and say, oh, you know, I'm sorry you're going through that. No, we're all going to go through it, this life or some other life, maybe. I think that's the whole part of the process.
Scorpio is like the deep divers of the zodiac. It seems like they're here to have an extreme journey of introspection and understanding their dark shadows, dark corners. And also, in my experience, my grandmother was a Scorpio, and she was the only family member that would hold space for me when I would experience terrifying ghosts and, you know, that sort of thing. She was the only one that didn't judge me. She was having experiences of her own. Later I found out, but she wouldn't confirm it, but she would just comfort me when my mom and dad, who were air signs, were like, oh no, that's not real, you know, and try and sort of fluff it away. But she would rock me to sleep, and she would hold space for me, and she would let me tell her what I experienced and wouldn't judge me about it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. But see how true this is? Like what you're saying, I'm staring at my chart right now, and what you're telling me is so true, because the biggest soul and shadow work I have to do is with that Scorpio energy. The deepest and largest and biggest stuff I have to do, some of it. And you said something about the South Node a minute ago, right? You said it was tools or something. What did you say about that?
So the South Node is the things that we've mastered, or the toolbox that we come in with that is easy for us to access.
Okay.
So it's your comfort zone, things that you've maybe already learned in the past and are good at. So there's not a lot of challenge there.
Mine's in Capricorn.
So you're opposite me. You're Capricorn South Node and I'm Capricorn North Node. So you're coming from, we're like ships passing in the night. You're coming from where I'm going and I'm going to where you're coming from.
Yeah. And the third house gives me it says thoughtful personality, the focus on understanding moral or ethical belief systems. Past lives, I had scattered energy, but now you're concentrated your attention on superficial relationships of everyday world. Now in this lifetime, your purpose seems to be to lift your attention toward a synthesis of higher consciousness. Hello. That makes sense.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. And so if your South Node is in the third house, which is ruled by Gemini, that makes sense that it's easy for you to be in broadcasting and communications because that's ruled by Mercury in Gemini.
Yeah, your focus will now be more and more to pursuit of higher knowledge and deeper understanding of the motivations of others. That was meant by the phrase, to understand is to forgive all. A true philosophy of compassion is your goal. Yeah. I swear to God, this stuff gives me chills when I read it sometimes.
Well, Cancer Moon is there so that you won't be a jerk.
That's right.
Because Cancer Moon is there for you to have compassion, extreme compassion, and empathy towards others, I think. When I see a Pisces moon or a Cancer moon in someone that has like an extreme chart, like a lot of Gemini or a lot of Aries, I see, oh, wow, this is so that you can feel for the other person, because sometimes if that's not there, they can just kind of, not see from the other person's. When you have the Libra rising, you have a lot of opportunity to feel for the person on the other side, to put yourself in other people's shoes and have empathy and compassion for sure.
Well,
like you might have Aries, but
it hurts. Like most of the heartache that I've been through in my life isn't my heart breaking for me. Mm-hmm. I know I can move on. That's the Aries in me. I know this is with friendships, family, relationships. I know I can move on, and I know there's another journey there on the other side. But my heartbreak is for not just for that person, because that's almost like, I don't mean it in the way of being egocentric, but more like the fact that I can't do anything about what they're having to go through. All I can do is just say, damn, right? That's it. Like, I hear you, but I can't solve it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fix it for them.
I feel like Aries wants to be the hero a lot. I've experienced that with Aries people in my life. Like, they really want to step up and save you or protect you or help you in a, noble way, and a well-aspected Aries. Sometimes they can be arrogant jerks too. There's a downside to all the zodiac signs, I think. But
I have that face too. Like I've got two faces. I've got an extremely passionate and sensual face, and then I also have like the Jack Nicholson kind of angry face. But I'm not angry. It's just the face that's on me. You know what I mean? It's like there.
Yeah.
Right. So, oh shoot. You know what? We only got a little bit of time left. I wanted to get into this is something I really wanted to ask you about, and I'd love to keep talking Western astrology with you, but can you tell me a little bit about Mayan astrology? Just something the reason why you're so into it.
Wow. It's a really thick subject. I'm not sure what I can
say
get out in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
But basically it's a completely different system from the Western astrology system. It's a 1320 module. So it's 13 tones, which is tones of creation, or if you study numerology, it'll feel simpatico with it. Like 1, if you're a 1, it's about unity If you're a 2, it's about duality or polarization. If you're a 10, it's about manifestation, example. So you have that gear of 13 tones going, say, clockwise. And then you have 20 solar tribes going, say, counterclockwise. And those are the 13/20 is this like magic frequency that the Mayans said was like an example of the human body. It's also the 260 combinations that the 13 tones and the 20 tribes create is like the matrix of the gestation period for a human. It's so deep. I don't even know. I'm like ill-equipped in this moment.
Let's do this. Can we have you back on to talk a little bit more about it sometime in the future? If you want.
Sure, I would love that.
I mean, you're outside right now talking to a microphone, right? Are you outside? You definitely got to be outside to hear those frogs. So,
no. So I live off grid, and our house is screened in on the like a third of the wall is screened. So we get an amazing. We're a mile from the ocean, so we get amazing trade wind breeze, and also winds coming down off the Mauna Kea. So we have a lot of air flow in our house, but it's like, in a sense, living sort of indoor outdoors because of all the screen we have.
Damn, man. See, now I was talking about soulmates and some of that work you do so much that I get caught up in my own story. I really should have. Yeah, we got to have you back because I want to talk about this because you're doing a course with as well, right? Your foundational witchcraft course, which is something I can tell by your energy. I'm just going to go ahead and recommend to people. And you say it's a course encompassing, it's an experimental course, you said, but it's encompassing the 13 moon cycles and the 8 Sabbaths or high holy days of the witch year.
It's experiential, not experimental.
Oh, so experiential. Somebody Pacho put experimental on here.
It might be a typo on my end. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So it's going to be a lunar and solar magics course, and it's kicking off this Friday on the first new moon of the decade, which feels so big and awesome to set intentions with. Some local folks are going to participate, and then I'm going to film it and then share the video with people who are participating virtually. So we're going to be doing new moons, full moons, and then on the half moon, which sounds so romantic, like half moon, we're going to have a half moon witchcraft course or witchcraft class on the half moon. So foundational witchcraft classes, ethical spell work, how to protect yourself psychically. When you start to do ritual, you get bigger, your energy expands, and that's great, but you have to also learn how to protect your energy, and that goes hand in hand. I think it's irresponsible to have a teacher not say, I'm going to encourage you to grow and expand and not teach you how to protect yourself at the same time. So
because when you do that,
going on.
Like when you do that, you're also opening yourself up to the astral and spiritual world even more. So it's like throwing food into a pond when you see all the fish come around to eat it and look at it. You know,
you're extra sparkly now, and you're, attracting all kinds of stuff. So not to be in fear about it, but that's real. And you need to learn some basic things to protect and guard yourself. And then also I built into the course a monthly mentorship. So we have a one-on-one video chat every dark moon that I'm going to be meeting with the students or participants. So the mentorship was a huge factor for me. 25 years ago, starting looking for someone to help guide me, there was no one around that I could find. And I thought this would be a nice service to have for the upcoming witches to discuss, maybe we can do divination. Maybe we can talk about dream work. Maybe we talk about the class that we just had and any questions that are coming up, just an hour a month or more if they wanted to do that. But at least an hour just to discuss what's coming up for them and bounce things off of a mentor. And then also have the seasonal festivals or solar Sabbats that are coming up. There are 8 in a year. And some folks are just choosing just to do the Sabbats and not do the lunar course. And some other people are doing, I'm calling it the Priestess path, which is a little bit different. And that's more of like a one-on-one private mentorship course that I'm doing with some folks in Europe, actually. So I'm open to custom tailoring it for people. It's not a rigid thing, but the Year of the Witch course, that's the gist of what is online on my website that you can sign up for. But if people want to private message me or email me, we can work with what they feel they need also.
Fantastic. And just to be clear this up, I read that wrong. Pacho didn't spell it wrong. I'm looking at it again, squinting my eyes, definitely, and it says experiential. So I tried to push that off on Pacho, but yeah, my bad, brother. No, I read it wrong.
Poor Pacho.
So, yeah. He's kind of tripping out because he's realizing that both of our charts are kind of close, you know.
I want you to send me both your charts and your birthday so I can do your Mayan for next time.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, we got to have you back on here to talk about some more of this stuff. I mean, I don't think I've talked to anybody about Mayan astrology on the program yet, you know. Do you know what confuses me about it, though, is like Eastern and Western astrology, or what some people call sidereal astrology, and then you have Western. They're both kind of accurate, but all of your signs are different and stuff. And so what do you recommend, like, what people pick, which one resonates with them more? Because it's like both charts kind of work for me, but one works more than the other, and that's the Western chart, you know, so I just stay with Western astrology, and for me.
I totally hear you. It's like, are you talking about Vedic astrology?
Yeah, either Vedic or, you know, some people do just regular, like what's used to be called Rosicrucian astrology, which is like sidereal. It's the same kind of circle charts and everything, but it doesn't compensate for the precession of the equinox and the energies, so it just only goes to where the constellations actually are. But I don't find it as accurate as the Western astrology.
Do they not embrace the outer planets also? It's
No, they do the traditional 7, but some of them do. But then they also have to do some type of adjustment to a star or something like that. It's very complicated astrology that's supposed to be extremely accurate, but they all say that they're extremely accurate or whatever. I think Vedic is something different. I read my Vedic chart and it doesn't really line up with me for some reason. I don't know why. It's weird.
Even in the Mayan, there's actually 2 different counts. There's the long count, and then there's the dream spell count, and that's a whole other can of worms. But when I first found out that the dream spell count that I was going by wasn't the original long count, I had a little meltdown and started to, because I was, you know, doing charts for people like crazy. Everyone that I'd meet, I was kind of obsessed with Mayan astrology for a while. And I would meet someone and be like, can I have your birthday, and look up your chart, and just wanted to like get as many people turned on to Mayan. I was like a pilgrim or something, or a zealot even. And I had to just put it down after a while. But when I realized that there was a long count that was the original Mayan count, not the one I was using, I started to do people's charts with the long count and the dream spell count, and would offer both to them and say, what do you think of this versus this? And so many people went with the dream spell count with what they were, because they were a different sign in that count. And then I met someone who told me they're both valid. One is your 3D personality or path, and the other is your 4D or 5D personality or path. So it's like who you are in the earth mundane realm and who you are in more of your astral self or your high self.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe there's, I don't know if that's confusing, but maybe that's what's going on with the different astrologies, that there's truth in both of them, but it's just looking at it from a different lens or a different point of view. And it's talking to a different aspect of you, perhaps.
Yeah, like your different bodies. Like, you know, some people say we have a lunar body, a solar body, or a causal body. Yeah. Yeah, that's some deep stuff there. But I am totally selfishly fascinated with the Mayan astrology. I wonder what it's going to say, you know. So yeah, I'll send that to you. And I know that you get a lot of good feedback. So I mean, I'll go ahead and tell everybody, go check it out. It's awanderingwitch.com. Do you have any other social media links that we need to be aware of? You're off the grid though, so I don't know how much you get involved with that.
I'm actually really involved with Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And we can do a lot from our phones and from our laptops and things here out in the jungle. We're solar off grid, but we do have pretty ample power. So I have an Instagram, and it's _wandering_witch. And my Facebook fan page or business page is A Wandering Witch. And the website is awanderingwitch.com. And I also moderate a Facebook group called Wandering Witches Gather Here. And it's a positive vibe, magical group that shares witchy information and thoughts and ideas around mysticism and magic. And that's been going on for a few months, and it's really fun to just be with some safe, magical people. There's no bullying, and I've been involved with some groups, and I'm just like, wow, people just love to smack on each other, and there's really none of that. I can't even deal. So it's a good vibe group.
Well, hey, I'll probably check that out too, and thank you again so much for coming on. I can't wait to have you back. Thanks for getting the shirt, by the way.
I love it.
I've been throwing those pictures everywhere because you're modeling it, so you can see your energy in the pictures too. You really put off a good vibe too. So thank you for supporting the show and listening to it as well. It means a lot.
I love listening to your show, and thank you for all that you do. It's such a great contribution to our community and our magical awareness, what you guys are doing there. So thank you. It's my honor to be on here.
Fantastic.
I'm lighting the void.
Yeah, right on. We can't wait to have you back to help light up the void. We got to get out of here, though, guys. We got like 30 seconds, so please don't copy the show without written permission. Music was by Chronox, guitar by Bundy. Big shout out to Pacho. Let's see, Amandala, Don, Jeremy Scott, Eric Markham, all you guys in the Fringe FM chat. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow night with the New Moon Special with Mary Justina. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.